As Andrew had said, epic leadership is the sweet spot of all the work that I do. So think for a moment. It's been said, culture trumps strategy. You agree with me on that? Culture trumps strategy? If that's the case, then the people who are setting the strategy, typically your leaders, are also setting culture, and they're deciding where the talent resides. So my question to you is, how are you working that? How's that working for you? And would it help to know that there were 4 principles that could help you attack all 3 areas at the same time? And that's what we would call epic leadership. Now, I can't in 30 minutes talk to you in full about all 4 principles, but I can help you understand a couple of personal habits that you can use day in and day out that will help you to become an epic leader. Sounds good? All right, good. So my main goal then with you today is to help you go from what some people say is good to great. How can you lean in on your personal leadership, have conversations that, I don't know, might be a little bit challenging, could help create winning relationships, can develop partnerships, retain employees? Does that sound good? That's what we want to do, right? Because like you, I'm trying to grow my business and maximize profit, right? Whether I was in corporate or now as an entrepreneur or advising my clients, at the end of the day, that's their story. But actually, there's a couple other things that go into their stories. And I want to talk a little bit about that with you. But before I do, let me understand a little bit more about what's on your mind. At your table, there are some white index cards and some pens. And my question to you to start us off today is, from your perspective as a company owner, as a business leader in your community, what are the biggest challenges you face now? If you could write 1 or 2 thoughts about that, then I will just go around the room and pick up some ideas, right? What are the biggest challenges you face now? Or, if it's easier, what keeps you up at night? Now, as Andrew said, sometimes I teach at the university, so I'm going to make it easy for you. Take your card and give it to the person on your right and introduce yourself if you haven't already. Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of chuckles in the room. And I see that people are still introducing themselves to each other, so that's great. If you can't read what's on the card, go ahead and get the quick crib notes, and then we'll just do a quick debrief, because I really want to hear what's on your mind. All right, so let's check back in, because Andrew's going to take the hook and take me off this stage in 30 minutes. He's a taskmaster that way. Can I have a volunteer to read what's on your card? So this way you're not reading your feedback, you're actually reading a neighborhood. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Lorena Edwards. I'm a business consultant. I'm also an author of my business plan book. I received the card. Do I tell the name of the person that got the card?
Not necessary.
I received a card that spoke to a goal as increasing revenue and time management.
Okay, increasing revenue, time management. Anyone else have that on their cards? We have it. Okay, we have a second in the house. All right, another volunteer. Yes, please. Tell us who you are.
My name is Carla Alvarez, and I connect female entrepreneurs. My company name is SATS. And the card that I received says delegation and employees.
Okay. Well, the SBA says that people are expecting to increase revenues, and at the same time, they're expecting to lose a lot of employees. Does that sound like anything you're dealing with, right? So being able to inspire and connect those employees right now is really important. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. A third volunteer, anyone else want to add in? Yes, Stephen.
Team building, finding the right experts to take over jobs and hit the ground running.
Team building. I was just meeting with the owner of an orthotics company last week, and he said he needed someone to help him do assessment. His wife came in and she said, "Oh, honey, but you know this is really about the sale of the company." And I said, "Oh, we're talking succession management. We're talking about the valuation of your company And this is probably a little bit more important because if you want to be able to get a higher valuation, you need a stable team. You need to know that that company can run with or without you, right? So I'm sure in U.0, when you get to 2.0, that's what you want in your company, right? So let's talk some more about that. What I would like to do then is talk about the habits that I've discovered working with my clients, whether as a corporate leadership person selling mainframes for IBM, to a banker with international corporations, or just a professor in the classroom working with my students, because after all, I'm a different generation, right? And I want to talk to you about how you can level up those leadership skills, those influence skills through habits, how to distinguish yourself as a leader to attract people to your cause, to your story, to your vision. Precious, I love your vision, right? And you hold on to that vision. And right now, everyone wants to know, why should I sign up with you? So we'll talk about the habits that go along with that. And then authenticity is really important these days, right? So for some people, and I hear this a lot with leaders who've developed their companies and they're trying to bring in the next gen, and they have trouble relating. And I don't know, but I discovered this first with my teenage daughter. She would come to me and like, Mom, you just don't understand. And I agreed with her. I said, you're right. I've never been a parent before. I've never had a teenager before. And you know what? Neither have you. So we are learning this together. Right? Like the computer said, hey. Right? So it's about relatability. And I always say, keep it real. And that's so important, right? And have a little fun along the way. Because if we haven't learned anything else over the last few years, it's that we need lightness. Whether we've been directly impacted by the pandemic or not, the social justice issues or not, this is a time when we are still really processing. Our people are processing. When they come into the front door, what you see is not always what's operating. And our ability to connect with them on a very real level and talk to them about what matters most to them, in addition to that shared vision that you've been creating, that's where it's at. That's where you get real devotion, all right? So speaking of devotion, I want to share with you a conversation I had with Harvard Business School professor Francesca Gino. Her specialty is around motivation, engagement, helping employees and companies with productivity, creativity, and developing fulfilling lives. I don't know, haven't you had an employee say to you, don't know if I got that to do today, right? They might rather do something else. And so just because they show up doesn't mean they're actually working for you. They call that quitting on the job. And even though you're a small business person, you know that when you go into fast food restaurants or to Target, and the waiter or the salesperson, they just don't have time for you, right? What's more important to them is on that little screen. So our job is to create really engaging relationships. But I'm not going to try to give you 20 things to do. I'm just going to ask you to think about 3 very personal habits. All right. So back to the conversation with Francesca. She did a whole series of work and she wrote this book called Rebel Talent. In the book, she did a lot of work with Steve Kerr. Anyone know who Steve Kerr is? Precious. For anyone who doesn't follow basketball, how would you surmise him in 7 words or less?
I thought of Stephen Curry. That's the first thing I thought of. So for some reason, the name of the team just
Warriors?
Exactly, Golden State Warriors. They've been
Golden State
Warriors, and he's also he wanted his first season as a coach.
Winning
he used to play with Michael Jordan.
That's right. Arguably one of the winningest coaches, right? He's taken them to the series, to the finals 6 times, won 4 out of the 6. That's a pretty good number, right? All All right, enough with the sports analogies. I've heard a lot of that today. Thank you. Time for some estrogen. Regardless of testosterone or estrogen, can I all agree that what she discovered in her conversations with him and what I have known to be true in my work with clients is that there's this really interesting tension between what I call standards and devotion. So think about that. Think about your most important employee relationship or your most important client relationship. Take a moment. Put that up in your head. Let's anchor on that for a moment. Now, in relationship, we often have a very healthy tension between the standards we set for the person, for the project, for the relationship, right? These are those negotiated agreements that we have. And then what is also very normal is a desire to be liked. I've been in rooms like this before, and out of my desire to be liked, can give a whole speech about nothing but just cracking jokes, because it's so much more fun to be liked. And sometimes I have to reel it in to remember, hit the milestone. Where it shows up for me with a client sometimes, and I've seen this with my clients as well, is you'll see the client who says, yes, we can, to their clients. They will sell the shop without real boundaries, without really understanding what it takes to deliver on the product, services, or goods, because they so want to be liked, right? So in traditional consulting fashion, in this 2x2 grid that I'm sharing with you today, standards versus devotion, when you have low devotion and low standards, we call that neglect. I doubt that anyone has any of those relationships now, because you wouldn't be here. But if you think about high devotion to the relationship and times where you may have slipped on the standards, where you may have not given the feedback necessary to develop that person, where you may not have come back to the client and said, you know, I hear you, but. One of the most powerful phrases that I learned early in my career was, I hear you, though I'm not sure you understand how this affects your brand, right? How this affects your brand. So I have centered the client. I have centered their goals. I have centered their dreams, right? And I have fulfilled my promise in terms of standards. So going back to what you put in your head about that important client relationship, the important employee relationship, how do they experience you? Where do you fall in this grid? Where do most people experience you? Anyone care to share? No name attribution. This is a learning lab, okay? We're learning together.
Could you clarify a little what you mean with your question, so that I know how to?
Sure. Sure. All right. So, step one, think of a critical relationship for the next couple of months till year end. A critical relationship, be it client or employee. Fixate on that image in your head. Next, ask yourself, according to this 2x2 grid, how do they experience you? Write it down, because it's really easy to be persuaded by other people's answers. That's called the crowd effect. Right? Step 3, 4, write down which quadrant do you have to work in to meet your business goals between now and year end? Which quadrant do you need to be working in between now and year end? You can't see quadrants?
You have severity.
Name each of the
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Upper left, severity. High standard, low devotion. Lower left, neglectful. Low standard, low devotion. I'm going to guess 0.0% are in that category. Bottom right, far right, is fidelity. So these are labels, right? Just honor me with the labels. We're fine with the labels. You can pick your own. But the top, upper right, is epic, which goes back to the principles we'll be talking about, all right? Suffice it to say that when you think about something that was epic, if your clients experience you as epic, if your employees think that you are an epic boss, you're probably really high on devotion. They know you care. And you hold them accountable. You hold yourself accountable, right? Think about your own best boss, right? They probably didn't let you skate. You probably grew. Tara, did I? Oh,
Yes.
Okay, good. So, any volunteer, and put a circle around the quadrant or the name of the quadrant you want to be for the balance of the year. All right, now.
I want to be an epic.
Right?
I definitely want to be an epic.
Doesn't that give you energy?
I got it.
Say,
I'm
hey.
here. Yes, I have the energy. The only situation is that sometimes you want to present your standards and share your standards, and I guess I'll say inspire the client with your standards. And you do have the devotion to get them there. But some clients, the resistance comes if they are existing owners who've been doing certain things a certain way for a while. And they cheat a little and go back to the old ways, or say yes, 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 have all of everything they got from you, bought from you, and everything paid for, and still do some things their ways that mix in and blend in. And you look, and even though your standards and dedication, devotion to working with them are there, you don't get to epic. At least I don't see epic, because it's got to be inspiring the client to like do away with the old and come on board with what's happening. But epic is weird.
Right?
And most people.
Epic. Okay. Stephen?
Is this inappropriate? You are epic. Lorena was my advisor. She is my advisor. She's helped me. She's helped me grow and helped me realize a lot of things and move me forward.
Thank you for
It's
this.
very real.
Nice.
Very real. I
Nice.
did slip on a couple of things, but you know. It worked.
Thank you.
Well, Lorena, yeah, I would go.
That's what you about an ongoing maintenance plan.
Well,
You
thank
gotta
you
set up
too.
an ongoing maintenance.
Anytime he interjects, I hear him say all going
Yes,
sell.
yes. Well, thank you.
Right, right. Okay, all right.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Precious?
I don't know how not to stand when I speak. Hello, everybody. My name is Precious Williams, proud founder and CEO of Perfect Pitches by Precious. And my clients receive me as epic, and I already know that. That I know. As a speaker, a trainer, and all those sort of things, badass best-selling author. I think what is hurting a little bit is I think people want me to be who I used to be. And so as we were changing the playgrounds that we're playing in, and I started working with companies, corporations, foundations, and nonprofits, I will have people want to revert back to prices from yesteryear when that's not where I am. And so I decided the playground I'm playing is in that, and it's a different story altogether. So I truly believe people receive me as epic. But that
Nice.
fidelity, though, with something.
She might be too bad.
There's
There's no such thing as too epic in my.
They call me a superhero, might as well be, you know?
I was hearing epic performance earlier today, though, right? With questioning and offering. In fact, Robert, you were talking a lot about that, calling people and being devoted, and then also being devoted to the agreement about this trusted partner relationship and being available and evolving the relationship, right? So to me, that's epic in action, right? Growing and raising the standards, because frankly, the marketplace is not static. Technology is not static. If we approach today's market with yesterday's behaviors, there will be someone out there to take your lunch or dinner or breakfast. That's right. That's right. So what we're talking about is how you constantly evolve with your clients or evolve your book of business to the next level, right? Okay. So now that we got the idea that we want to talk about epic and some of the principles that go with it, let me ask you a question. I have voluntold 3 people to participate, so you're off the hook. The exercise for my 3 volunteers, Juanita, Stephen, and Tara, is to describe what is a smartphone. So I'm going to start with Juanita. For someone born in 2002, for the benefit of the room, could you describe what is a smartphone? A mini computer. Everyone hear that? Can you say that a little louder? A fan just came on.
Okay, no problem. So it's a mini computer
Okay.
with the capabilities of a home phone that you keep with you. It's the capabilities of being able to reach any individual doctor's office, any of your businesses that you have to take care of. It is disconnected to a hard wire, so you don't have to be wired at all to any outlet. The capabilities to have pictures on your phone without having to go to Walgreens and have them printed. You're able to email from it. So I would say those things.
Okay, very nice. Everyone hear that?
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to give her a hand of applause. Thank you very much. Next question. Stephen, can you explain what is a smartphone to a person born in 1920?
They wouldn't even understand a computer. Wow. A smartphone is a library in your pocket. It is a newspaper in your pocket. It's the what's the newspaper kid that used to be on the corner? It's your almanac. It's your calendar. It's the little kid shouting out paper, paper. It's your scheduler, if that's a word. That's all right. I'm just making a word up. That's what a computer is, and that's what's in your phone, and that's what a smartphone is.
All right. Thank you very much, Stephen. Round of applause. Tara, can you tell us what you would say to someone born in 1600? What is a smartphone?
History was not my thing. Oh goodness gracious. So a smartphone would be a way. It would be the person that you're going to send to the phone to tell them that something's happening over here. It would be what is it? Your town crier. It would be your let's say your brother. I don't know, let me stop. It would be not the parliament. Those are the ones.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, so I saw a lot of reactions. I saw some chuckling. I saw some arms flapping. What did you notice as you think about all three scenarios? What did you notice?
You need to be creative and kind of be able to communicate that you're reaching the person who you're talking to. That makes sense. Like, know your audience type of thing.
Yep, know your audience. Okay. What else? Yes, ma'am?
That technology has changed in what, over the centuries. So it's changed over the decades and centuries, so that in order to describe something, a technology has to have already been an occurrence before the person can understand what it is you're speaking about.
I like what you're getting at. Anyone want to build on that?
Contextualize.
Yes, contextualizing it. So who had the easiest job between all three people? Because
Reference.
there was a shared reference point, right? So what does that mean in terms of the employees we lead, the partners we work with, and the clients we're selling with? We're partnering with.
Knowing how to communicate to each one of those groups or individuals, understand their needs,
Understanding.
listen to them, take it in,
Mm-hmm.
Catering the method.
and cater their right.
That's right. Know your room, your audience,
Room.
their hopes, their dreams, right?
Yes.
The 1600 person might have been wondering, who's invading my village? Kid born in 2002, who's invading my TikTok stream, right? Who's sliding into my DMs? I feel good that I know how to say that, actually.
Right.
I wish my daughter was watching this. I spent a lot of time trying to persuade her I'm really cool and hip. She doesn't always buy it.
You were referring to direct mail.
Exactly. So Stephen actually must have seen my slides, because he seemed to have hit every of the three habits that I wanted to bring to your attention today. Habit number 1, approach each conversation, each interaction with empathy, right? Somebody asked me last night, because I was here for the networking reception, what's your superpower? And I said, I build trust. And I don't know that it resonated with the individual, but I make trusted spaces for people to have real conversations about what's top of mind and what's driving what's top of mind. All right? Those conversations can get way deeper than you think you're prepared for. Most times people aren't looking for an answer, right? They just need to know that they're okay. It's okay. I have a client that sits in Madison, Wisconsin. We do all of our work over Zoom. And within 2 or 3 meetings of our coaching relationship, I was asking him something about the stresses coming up in the coming year. And he divulged that he and his wife are going through in vitro. So I hear from the that people know how taxing this can be. Few people would think about how taxing it is to the husband. And he opened up, and I'm like, wow, that's not exactly what I expected. And then just earlier this week, it was really cute, really gratifying, actually. He said, I've been waiting for the last 2 months for us to be able to reconnect. I really value our time. Frankly, I was touched. He's known as a real go-getter. I was brought in to help accelerate his development so he can leapfrog to the C-suite. You would think that someone at that level doesn't need to share the personal side of their life, but he comes across really buttoned down as such an expert that people don't know how to always relate. All right? So in your circle, can people relate to you? The second habit that I try to practice each and every day, and I even journal on it, what am I curious about? Because out of curiosity is born the next question, right? Stephen, what's so great about your coach?
Personable. For me, that works.
Why does that work for you? What difference has that made for you?
I like authentic people, genuine people. I relate to those sort of people. And what has it meant to me with that part of it? It's meant growth. It's helped me understand how to communicate better. I heard things from her that I've heard from my wife in different ways, but it was still the same thing. So it helped me temper my delivery or the way I address things.
You know,
A little more tact.
I mean, there's over 20 people in this room. You're live streaming, and I'm really touched and impressed by how honest and vulnerable you can be with something that's critical to your growth.
It's really vulnerable. I just believe in being just keeping it real. You know what I mean? That's just who I am.
So can we all evoke that relationship, as we've heard, with our own circles? And how do you do it in a way that's authentic to your style, right? We often come at people with our preferred style. I would ask you to think about their style, right? Steve and I had an interaction last night. And I don't know, I was feeling jokey, right? So we were upstairs and I'm like, hey, and we were talking. And the person sitting there next to me said, you talk to anybody. I'm like, yep, I do. I do. And we had a great conversation, which allowed me to ask him to be my volunteer today. All right?
Yeah.
It wasn't the plan, but when you can be authentic and like who you are and lean into that, good things happen. To wit, precious. Okay? The third habit. Even if you're the expert in the room, make it easy to have a conversation. That might mean just asking the question and then sitting back and listening. See you thinking. Are you reflecting? Right? Sitting back and listening. Listening for what is said and for what is not. Another cue that I use when I'm curious and I'm trying to understand what the real question is I watch body language. Where did someone tighten up? Where did they shoot up? My first experience with that was actually, again, as a parent, right? Your little kid comes in, look at what I did. And it's like a coloring Lego or whatever. And I'm like, never guess at it, right? I asked my daughter, I'm like, that's great. That's a rabbit you drew. She said, no, that's me. So don't label it for your persons, but be curious and engage them and make it easy for them to ask you a question, right? Because then they're going to feel accepted. So did any of this resonate for you about habits?
Yes.
About putting into action some of the things you've heard today, right? What would make it challenging to apply any of these habits in your day-to-day? What's one obstacle? Yep, Durham.
Your current habits.
Your current habits, right?
In order to increase, you have to decrease.
That's one way of thinking about it.
But Bruce Lee would say, he would always talk about minimizing things out of your life, things that are not working towards your goal, whatever that goal might be.
All right, so here you go. On your index card, write down one thing that would be an obstacle for you in implementing any of these habits with your relationship. One obstacle. Oh, all three habits. So habit number 1 is approach each conversation with empathy. So let's dial in on the 1 or 2 relationships that you need to deepen before now and year end that are critical to your business success, right? Kind of go back to that. The second habit is maintain curiosity even if you're the expert. Pick one of the 3 habits. The third habit is make it easy for clients who don't know to ask a question.
What was the first one that gave it?
The first one was approach each conversation with empathy. All right, so we're going to have a little bit of a coaching moment. In neuroscience, there's a technique called if-then, and it's simply anchoring on the behavior. If I, Durrell, what was your obstacle? Oh, old habits. If I start the old habit, whatever that is, then I will do what? That's the only change you need to make. It's an if-then statement borrowed out of mathematics, right? But it's incredibly powerful because we're not trying to have you change all of your habits overnight. We're trying to habit stack one good habit after the other, right? Yes, sir.
Allow me to add a little clarity to that.
Please
For
do.
me, the habit that I'm working on is putting down my cell phone, ignoring social media, and focusing on the tasks that I have to do. Because it's almost like social media is like a Snickers bar
Yes.
or a Big Mac.
Yes.
It tastes good, and then after you ate it, it's like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Okay. So, is there a time of day when this typically happens that you would like to change that behavior?
Actually, first
First thing?
thing, after the 9 o'clock hour, typically I would have a meeting that starts at 9:30, and I'm like, oh, let me see what's going on. So I just like stop it.
Okay. Anyone have suggestions on what he could do instead? When I reach for my phone after the 9 o'clock hour,
One suggestion that I think of, it would be to give yourself, put yourself on a schedule with intervals, saying that I'm going to do these social media, these 3, but there's only really, should be more than 3, can't be all. These 3 social media platforms, 3 times a day. These are the times. From this time to, let's say from 9 to 9:30. Bang, that's it. Just do that. Then you go back again from 1 to 1:30. And then you go back later, just in case you miss something. If that's not, that's like an hour and a half, 1 hour and 30 minutes. Is that enough?
That's too much.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, some people, listen, before, if you get on social media, you can be on
I
an
know.
hour
So this
and
is a-
10 minutes.
It's a very real common issue. And certainly when I'm working in relationships with people, we'll talk about how they structure their day to maximize productivity and their energy. However, we have neuroscientists working on how to make this thing like that bag of chips, right? So one thing that I do is I say, when I find myself reaching for my phone, I ask myself, what's my priority? And that stops me almost every time, almost every time. And if it is a priority, then I schedule it. If it's a regular priority, I take your suggestion and I schedule it and I build it into my day. So this way I have the brain capacity to stay focused on my priorities. Right?
Another way I look at it
Yes,
is,
ma'am.
what value?
It's
I look at it, when it comes to, I always say it's important to ask, as for other executives, what value will it add to my day and to my productivity?
Mhm.
You know, so if it's not gonna add any value to my day or to my productivity, I don't need it.
Absolutely. All good suggestions. All right. So here's the big question. On a scale of 5, 5 being I learned a lot that I want to put in practice, and 1, come back and teach me some more. Where are you on the scale? Show of hands for one.
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, I'll take 1 and 5. How about that?
See, I can't lose with that question. Thank you very much. Right, so I wanted to get a sense of how productive this conversation was for you, right? Five. So you learned a lot. Very good. On your index card, circle, put a star by the one thing that you want to do differently. Drop me a note. You can use the QR code, or if you're a woman, you can join me at the Women's Invitational. Women like me are being.
This is January 11th, 15th, 2022.
That's a typo. Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Most of my female clients are asked to do way too much with too little time. They over-deliver, and care of the self usually falls to the bottom of the list and gets kicked into the next year. You may wonder, as a man, why you should even care about that. Besides the fact that these are your wives and your daughters, they are your employees. And right now, burnout is on the rise because there aren't enough supports at work and socially for childcare, elder care, and the like.
Yes.
The pandemic has shown us that. I knew it, and probably many of the women here in the room have known it, if they had to raise children in any sort of a corporate environment, right? It's no joke. And if you want to maintain the talent that you have in your midst, understanding how to support them is critical. In the absence of that, I'm taking them off-site from the 11th to the 15th, where we talk about what it's like to be a woman today, how to lean into your personal leadership, and develop your plan for 2023. So feel free to join me in Curacao, which is in the center of the Caribbean, or sign up to just stay in touch. Let me know how you're doing, because I do believe in giving back and going from spots to dots to connections. So if you were here last night, you heard Don talk about that, right? So I want to puff up too. All right. Any questions before I take my leave? All right. I think yes, ma'am.
What's the price for the package?
So it's all inclusive, which means that once you arrive in Curacao, which is a 4.5-hour flight, we pick you up. We take you to the private villa. You have each day, you have your own room, right? Each day we have leadership and development in small group. It's a maximum of 8 people, 8 women. And in the morning we have roundtables. We have a privately catered lunch with a private chef. In the afternoon, we go on cultural excursions, think art galleries, receptions, snorkeling. That's what Curacao is known for. I can't snorkel. I'm scared to death, but I wanted to push myself. And all meals and transportation back to the airport, so it's $57.50. All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Angela. This is great. All right. So epic leadership. And many times it's the small things that make all the difference in the world. And what I really like is that you gave us 3 things that we could do, concrete things that we could start doing tomorrow. And that's really what you got to do as a business owner, a little bit at a time. So thanks again, Angela. Great message.
I want to jump into the epic group picture right now if you can while we have everybody.
Okay. So, definitely we've got 1 session left, but each session has had its own valuable perspectives. And I think really what we want you to take away is, there's a holistic approach that you have to take to your business. As a business owner, there's so many things you need to know. So you can't just know certain things, because the things that you don't know are going to hurt you. So that's what this is all about. So we got 1 more session left. Panel, what time is it now? It's like 2. So we'll do the panel at 2:30 as planned. So we got some time for networking.
if you didn't have any food. And this panel is going to be really about, what do we call it? Financial leadership and strategies that every business owner needs to know. Many times business owners don't focus enough on that side of the business and they get in trouble. So we're going to talk about things you need to know. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to do your accounting yourself, but you need to know certain things so that you can run your business successfully. So we're looking forward to that. We've got, I guess I'll be moderating. We've got Mary Baker in the back, CPA, Baker Tax and Accounting. All right, we got Jack here, first time Power Breakfast visit. And a sponsor, so excited to have you. And we have great sponsors over the years. We've got paid media. I've got shared it on the images. M&T Bank again, Spencer Savings Bank. Oh, all right, you're hiding back there. So. And then we got Jason Martin, who's doing the photography. J Martin Productions, he does great work.